Hey, Nosa community, this is Shamika, and I am back. And this topic, I suggest you have a seat. So, this is a topic that really covers just like life experiences, but it's a great topic when we talk about business, especially if you're kind of transitioning, or maybe you attempted to start your business and you're having some setbacks, or you're having more doors closed than open, and you're feeling unsure about yourself. So, this topic today is about overcoming rejection, the big R. And one of the things and one of the reasons that I hope you get from this presentation is really that it is a huge part of business. It impacts everybody when we talk about success, and it's something that you truly can overcome. A big part of it is your mindset as well as setting expectations. So let's get into the conversation on rejection. And if you haven't gotten a chance, feel free to go ahead and subscribe to our channel here. Button subscribe, click that subscribe button and support our community so we can have more content out there, as well as click on the alert bell, which I think might be over here, so you can get updates on our latest content. We're dropping a lot of content this month and as we go into the summer, just about the nuts and bolts of business, not so much the actual techniques and the steps, but things that impact your business, like rejection, like having great presentation skills, knowing how to negotiate, things that you need to know that you maybe don't know that you don't know, that can really hinder you or help you in your success of your business. So let's get it started. So overcoming rejection by far is not failure. The importance of learning from business setbacks will really help you in so many other avenues as you grow your business, expand it, get it started, launch it, so that when you have the right mindset, you're not taken aback and feel like you have to stop versus kind of see it as a pause like it really is. So, rejection in business can be challenging. I'll share during this presentation some of the stories. It can be demoralizing. It can make you feel bad. It can be upsetting, especially if they're in the context of a proposal or a pitch that you're really excited about. Maybe you talked to this client a couple of different times and you have a good feeling about it. And, they've given the impression that they want to move forward, and then maybe they're not interested or didn't go through the proper chain of command to get things approved. When we've devoted a lot of time, energy, and money to our business pursuits, as many of you guys have, it can be extremely difficult to accept it. But later you will understand that it's something completely normal. It's a part of everyone's business. No one goes into business and hits success on top of success on top of success. It doesn't happen like that. And the great thing about having rejection or setbacks is that if you don't learn the lesson, do things differently, or if you didn't learn the lesson, many times that type of situation may revisit you. So it's important to remember that failure is not the same as rejection, and that setbacks can offer fantastic opportunities for growth and learning. Some of the common sources of rejection could be a proposal. Maybe you sent over the contract, you felt like you did everything you needed to do. You got on the phone with them, you had conversations, you had a good sales pitch, and things were moving forward. And then for whatever reason, the client no longer is able to offer what they said, or maybe wants to negotiate some things that you're unable to negotiate. Failed pitches. So we all get nervous, especially if you're not someone who typically does presentations on a regular basis. You're introducing your service, maybe you're introducing it to a couple of different people and you're excited about it, but your pitch doesn't land. So your pitch doesn't hit the audience that you intended. It doesn't get the type of feedback that you want, or they're asking questions that maybe you don't have the answers to. And you feel like, oh, this is a waste of time. I shouldn't have even done it. Forget about it. And then, of course, lost sales. And once again, we've all experienced it. You're working with a client. It could be situations, especially in healthcare staffing, because this kind of talks generically, but in healthcare staffing where you lost an employee to a client. that's a loss of a sale because that person no longer working for your agency means that your agency isn't generating any revenue. It could also be that maybe your client was bought out by another corporation or MSP VMS type of situation where you have to go through a different process to actually connect, market, and sell your service to them. So those are all some examples, but let's get into the beginning stages where people feel many times the most amount of rejection. And that's in, okay, Shamika, I've done everything you said that I needed to do, or whomever you might be working with, but I haven't got my first client. I've made 100,000 calls. I've talked to 1,000 million people. I haven't got my first client. A lot of people see that as a form of rejection or that it's not meant to be. But when you think about it, and when you really do the research, the number of calls that you have to do to get a yes is astounding. It's definitely not 200 or 300. It may be 400 or 500. It may be thousands of calls. So I tell people, and thanks for all those in the NOSA group who also do it, to stay encouraged, but also understand what you're working with. There's millions of healthcare staffing facilities or healthcare staffing facilities, um, organizations, and things of that nature in that realm. There's millions of them. So unless you touch all of those, you haven't done as much as you can do. Can that process be exhausting? Can it be cumbersome? Can you feel like you're in a hamster wheel, just spinning with the calls? Yes. Can some of those calls feel like you're getting, no, we don't use agency, no, we're not interested, no, no, no? Yes. But that's a part of the process. And one of the things that I tell people as a takeaway from stuff like that is to perfect your pitch. Ask for feedback from that client. We had a NOSA recently share that, they were working with a particular client trying to onboard them onto their staffing agency. And one of the feedbacks that they got was, hey, your bill rates aren't quite competitive, or that, not having certain technologies or 24-hour access is a deal breaker. So, not being joint commission certified might be a deal breaker. Not being in the industry long enough might be a deal breaker. So, when you're thinking about in the early stages, oh, I'm getting all these doors closed and I'm getting all these no's, really use that as a lesson to train yourself, learn. I've also seen NOSAs get contracts or get leads through local community events, going to church. One NOSA went to church and happened to share with the individual that worked as a scheduler at a facility that she was starting her business, and that created a potential lead. So, in those instances, I tell people, don't close the door all the way. A no does not mean not at all. It just means not right now, most of the time. And with that mindset, you always want to revisit those things. You want to perfect what you're doing, get feedback, and then always revisit because things change. As much as our business is dynamic, it's also a 24-hour business, it's a tough business. There's a lot of changes happening in our industry over the last couple of years. So that means that management turns over. That means that staff turns over. That means that policies change. So one year they may say, hey, we don't use agencies, but that could definitely change in the next year or so. Okay, well, maybe we only use agency for per diem, or maybe we only use agency for travel contracts. So always be thinking about that next step in the process of kind of bringing it all together when it comes to getting no's or rejection. So, rejection can be difficult to deal with, but there are methods and tactics that can help us get through it all and draw lessons from those experiences. And I gave some examples there. As always, feel free to drop some of your experiences in the chat box or in the comment box below. We'd love to hear what you've been dealing with. I hear it all the time. And one other thing to take in consideration when you're thinking about rejection is your motivating factor. Like if you're in a place where you feel like, hey, I've done all these things, I've done it for some time, I'm still not seeing the result that I'm looking for. Maybe I've reached out to other people, talked to mentors or supportive people, and trying to see, hey, where I might be able to make some changes. Then you want to kind of think about, hey, what's your motivating factor when it comes to starting this agency? what's in it for them and why are you doing it? What's your why? So when you think about rejection, you also always want to refrain from rejection as being anything but a learning opportunity. You want to try to refrain from rejection as a chance, as just being a chance to learn and grow rather than seeing it as a personal failing. You want to request other parties' opinion and use it to improve your ideas and strategy. And I want to touch a little bit on when this says other parties. You want to you want to get you want to discuss what's happening with you with people who actually are experienced in that field, as well as people who are going to provide you like productive, constructive feedback. So you don't want to talk to everybody because some people may tell you, well, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. And that's not the energy that we want to bring to our business. So be mindful of the type of people that you speak to in those types of settings and what type of help that they can actually offer. Seek feedback. Seek feedback. We had, and we'll probably do it again this summer, a couple of sessions on doing your pitch. And people were nervous on our Zoom call to actually do your pitch. I was like, you guys know me, right? Right. And if you're scared or nervous to have a conversation or do a sales pitch with me, I can imagine how you would be on a call with a stranger that you don't know who's an actual decision maker. So seek feedback, get the information from the people who are objective, who aren't in your everyday experiences, who actually want you to win in life and in your business, who can help you make improvements and refine your approach, and who maybe haven't been with you through the whole process. So when you talk to me and you're like, Shamika, this is what my sales pitch is, if you're telling it to me, I'm listening objectively from a space of, would I work with that staffing agency? Is the information they're sharing enough? Does it make sense? Is it coming together? Are they excited about it? So really seek feedback is a great point, because you want to make sure you're going in the right direction and understanding that, hey, this is working and this is not working. That person might have that one thing to say to you that'll kind of turn the light bulb on. So an example of that was a story where I spoke with a NOSA, because all my stories are NOSA related. But it was a story where I spoke with a NOSA, and she had spent a lot of her personal career in the hospice care space. So hospice care in long-term care facilities, hospice care in outpatient, inpatient types of facilities. And initially, her thought process was around, I'm going to start this staffing agency. We're going to only focus on long-term care. And we're going to provide these temporary services to long-term care only. I shared with her, why not provide temporary staffing in a hospice space? Having been a hospice nurse myself, I understand there's specific certifications and credentials that you can get as a hospice nurse. There's always a need for that particular role, especially if you're not inpatient. And there's also a need for inpatient hospice nurses. And hospice nurses have a different level of passion for what they do. It's not something everybody wants to do. I totally get it. But for those who want to do it, they are passionate about it. They provide that bridge for families and patients as the patient is transitioning. They also can provide a tremendous amount of education. And those are things that if it was my staffing agency and I had decided to take it and specialize in hospice, or that was one of my selling points, I would include that. I would include the certification that hospice nurses have, specialization, your experience in it, along with, you know, doing other things around the education piece. Because one of the benefits, and I'm not going to go too far into that, but one of the benefits of hospice and some of the other specialties is that there's opportunities for education. And a lot of time people don't know what this role does or that role, or that there's a gabillion different specialties in nursing. So those are great ways and things to point out that kind of make you different. If you do diabetes education, that's a big one. That would be a benefit. Spoke to nurses about, hey, why don't you specialize in dialysis? That's another big field that has a need, And it also has a specific pool of candidates that you can work with that are specialized in it. So that if they go to facilities, whether it's for a travel contract or for a per diem shift, they have in place the experience to work there. And you can include physical and occupational therapies. The therapies have their specialties, ultrasound techs. So those are some things that I would think about or share with an individual as a form of feedback when they're thinking about getting started, because many times we box ourselves in and say, hey, this is a low hanging fruit, and I'm referring to long-term care, and there's nothing wrong with staffing that, but you want to also open your eyes to some of the things that you already do, that you already know, and that you already specialize in. So of course, seek feedback. Seek feedback. I've done, feedback session with people about their website, their social media, their pitch, their bill rate. So seeking feedback is always beneficial. But like I mentioned in the first point, you want to make sure that you're seeking feedback from a reputable party. Use rejection as motivation to improve. Just to use rejection as motivation alone is enough. But you always want to see ways that you can improve. Rejection shouldn't demoralize you. Instead, it should spur you on to develop your abilities or your offerings or your skills. And one of the reasons that using rejection as a motivation is really good, because when you talk to people and you listen to their stories and you kind of hear their journey, many times their journey includes the door being closed as well. So you never know what a person went through to get there. And thankfully, everybody's journey is different, but trust, they've experienced rejection. They've experienced what they would consider failures. They've experienced setbacks. So you're not alone in having that process, but the way that you turn it around and really use rejection as motivation is key. Is key. Like I mentioned earlier, anytime somebody tells me no, I never feel like it's a no, not at all. It's always a no, not right now. That's just my thought process. And not right now could be a period of time. And it's not to say not right now this week, but it could be a yes next week. I don't really put a specific time frame on that part of it, but surely, um, I've had situations where things turn around. For us, early on in our business, we struggled with lots of different things, many of the things that you guys discussed, but we struggled with getting like the right type of employee. We struggled with obtaining more clients after we got our first initial client. We had struggles with, um, you know, kind of managing and creating our business in a way that didn't lean towards us being a small business, so that we could, compete with some of the medium or larger size agencies, because for the most part we stayed small for majority of the time that our business was up and running. But there reached a point that we needed to appear big but still operate small, and that's really tricky, and I know that's something that many of you guys experience, and we'll probably do another presentation on that. But being able to finagle that and bring in the right people who are dedicated to what you're doing, who feel the momentum and energy that you're trying to bring to the process, can be tricky, because sometimes you have to let those people go. But like I said, rejection as a motivation to improve is a great concept and thought process. And then also, the motivation to improve, to me, touches on improve your skills. If you're not good at Microsoft Office or Google Docs, take some time and work on those things. If you're not good at social media, take some time and work on that. If you're not good at presenting, take some time and work on those things. There are things in your business that make sense to outsource, but there are things in your business that you need to be able to do no matter what. And if you're not comfortable with it, 9 times out of 10, you're not sure what you're doing, or you're not doing it enough. So put yourself in a position where you get to do it more. If you're uncomfortable with public speaking, go do it. Go to Chamber of Commerce or different engagements where you have to network and speak to people. If you're not a great networker, go to networking events. If you're have challenges around business email writing, practice it. Look for tools and resources. If you lack organization, incorporate things in your day, incorporate systems in your workplace that allows you to work on those things. So those three things: reframe the rejection as a learning opportunity, seek feedback, and use rejection as motivation to improve. Perfect tips. Next, success stories from real life are fantastic inspirations and motivators. And we try to share a lot of that in the group. Take Walt Disney, for example, who attempted to finance Disneyland but was turned down by more than 300 banks. That happens in our industry. Finding funding, hitting that spark where you have all these invoices, but you may not have the funding, even taking the road like we did of self-funding. Sometimes you might run out of money, but that will teach you to create a stronger and better plan, whether it's through factoring, through loans, through other opportunities, investors. When you run into a hurdle, if it doesn't stop you, then it is an opportunity to teach you. He persevered in spite of these obstacles and eventually found a financier who shared his convictions. And that's a really nice point about knowing when to go and knowing when to wait. When you are passionate about what you're doing, having the right types of people around you matter. When you think, hey, this thing is about to be the next, the best, the this, the that, your excitement alone will traditionally excite other people. And they will have the shared, like it mentions here, shared convictions and excitement about what you're doing. So, of course, we know today Disneyland is one of the most popular and recognizable theme parks in the world. And we have so many success stories in our group, whether it's joint commission, new contracts, new clients, getting started, expanding your business, adding other businesses. And those stories are shared there as well as on our website so that other people know it's not a lane that's exclusive. It's a lane for me and for you guys that's inclusive. You just have to come on in. So, next, the importance of resilience and persistence. Your aptitude for resilience, and I know we've heard that your aptitude is equal to your attitude, but your aptitude for resilience and persistence will play a significant role in your ability to recover from failure and thrive in business. I touched on that early. The calls, the outreach, the in-persons. It's a part of our industry. It's something that you'll constantly have to be doing. Hopefully over time it's not as much, but that's what it is. So it has to be something that either you or your business partner love to do, but it's a key part of what you do. You have to always be in tune with the next opportunity, expansion, and be connected to the right people and decision makers so that they can share that information with you as well. Develop a resilient attitude by learning to bounce back from setbacks. And this is always a hard one because we've seen in the group and we've seen here on the Facebook page and YouTube page here, so many people feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work that actually goes into starting a staffing business. And I tell people, to be honest, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And part of the reason that it is, unlike other industries, healthcare staffing is a 365 business. And that partially goes into why it's so much work. For me, I left the nursing floor working 12-hour days and started my business with my business partner and began working 16-hour days. I would get up at 6 a.m. and go to sleep at 8, 9, 10, 11 a.m. When I lived on the East Coast and our business was primarily in mountain time, I would wake up at 6 and I would go to bed at 6 their time so that we can catch anything, so that we can fill in those gaps. So when you think about it, the work pays off over time, but in the early stages, you really are pouring into your business way more than you are having the outcomes that you're looking for. So, developing a resilient attitude by learning to bounce back from setbacks is key. Having the right mindset and the people around you is essential. And viewing challenges as opportunities to grow is important because you realize in your own self how much you can do when you're dealing with multiple call offs, when you're dealing with schedulers. And this was back in the day, schedulers texting, calling, emailing all night long, and you trying to fill shifts. You realize how much you're passionate about what you're doing and how important it is to you. So being persistent means holding on to your objectives, your vision, your goals, your why, even when you're facing adversity, and understanding that I know you guys see the videos. I've talked about it. When people say, hey, this is $1 billion industry, they're accurate, but you don't get into the industry and make $1 billion within the first year. Some people have, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but that's not your traditional process. You put in some time before you get there. And you have to understand during that time you want to grow. So you want to understand, what is recruitment, what is human resources, what is employment law, how can I be organized, how can I improve the process for my applicants, what are some things that I can do differently, whether it be from my own experiences or from the experiences of my staff members. Why is my staff leaving, why am I having a hard time getting staff members? So those are all, like it mentions here, opportunities to grow. Um, no matter how small, acknowledge your successes and use them as fuel to keep going. Success can look different for different people, but you don't want to have your success only be a monetary success. Only focusing on a monetary success can look and be a little underwhelming, because sometimes you don't get those monetary successes in the first couple of years. But taking into account the smaller successes, whether it's that you got the contract or that they renewed, that you filled the shift, that you were able to increase the bill rate, those types of things are successes too, because you're using some of the skills that you've learned, whether it's negotiation, time management, organization. So always, no matter how small, acknowledge your successes and use them as fuel to keep going. So a couple of other tips. So 8 tips for handling rejection in business is to express your value. Tell them your why. Tell them what's in it for them. So you always want to take that into consideration, one, as a reminder to yourself, but also to make sure that you're including it in the conversation that you're having with potential clients or business owners. Keep selling. Don't stop. When people say, well, Shamika, I've done 100 calls. Okay, well, you can do 200. The vast amount of opportunity out there isn't limited to 100 calls or 200 calls. There are thousands of healthcare facilities out there. Demonstrate comprehension and stay positive. If you don't know, ask questions, ask whys. If you haven't heard back, find out. Stay positive, even in the waiting period, which we've all experienced. We're like, oh, I sent over the contract. They told me to, and I'm just waiting. Should I reach out? Stay positive. Keep your energy and your thought process positive. If they set a time frame, you haven't heard back, hey, find out what's going on. Have the right numbers. So you want to make sure when you're in that space of rejection that it's not because of something that you did. So you want to make sure that you manage all your typos, you calculated things appropriately, and that you've thought through that process so that you're being flexible with your potential client. Provide alternative options for payment. So sometimes if you get feedback from your client around why they're not wanting to work with you or considering not working with you, give yourself options. You always want to give them options, versus close the deal and make it a lose-lose versus a win-win or a win-lose. So you never want to have a win-lose or lose-lose. So providing options for payment is always a great tool. Some people, hey, say you can pay every 2 weeks or you can pay every 30 days. Traditionally, it's 30 days, but you will provide alternatives. If they pay sooner, you can always think about offering a discount. At the end of the day, you want to be able to fill the shifts and get paid for doing that. Educate rather than sell. One of the great things about what I do here in this community and what many people do in their respective agencies and businesses is that people want to connect with you. Right? They want to know that you're not a salesman, that you won't take advantage, that you indeed have their best interests at heart. So spend more time on educating them about what it is, especially if they don't know what a staffing agency does and how it can be beneficial, than selling them. Build rapport with prospects. Always be in the having the conversation, showing up at events or activities where your agency can be present and they can put names to faces. And then, of course, focus on long-term goal, long-term vision. The long haul is really where things happen. Early on, like I mentioned before, isn't the area where you'll see the most results for your business. It'll take time. So take that into account when you're thinking about, hey, um, I haven't reached my particular goal. It's been a couple of months. That's okay. Keep calling, keep selling, keep doing the things that you're doing. And then finally, failure and rejection are two very different things. You have to reinterpret rejection as a learning opportunity. You want to solicit constructive criticism and use rejection as a motivation to improve. You can use rejections as stepping stones on your road to success. And by developing a tenacious attitude and resilient mindset, you can stay motivated and goal oriented. Remember that success is a process rather than a finish line. So if you haven't gotten a chance now after this presentation, definitely let us know what your thoughts are and any experiences that you want to share. Feel free to also go ahead and follow us on our social media and check out our website, as we have a lot of great products out there for our community. And look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.